Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Allison Weiss, and I'm the Associate Director of Corporate and Executive Education at the Brown School of Professional Studies. I'm joined today by Dr. Baba Prasad, who will speak to you more towards the end of today's session, but he is the faculty lead, developer, and instructor for the Human-Centered AI course. And I feel very grateful that he was able to join us today because he wasn't originally scheduled to come, but we saw what an incredible turnout we had today. And we wanted to give you something a little bit special today. So I wanted to preview that you're going to get a special sneak peek of some of the content. I'd also love to know who else is here. So I'm going to put a message in the chat encouraging you to introduce yourself and tell us where you are tuning in from. And you can access that by clicking on the bottom bar of Zoom, clicking on chat, and typing and submitting your response there. And if you have a question at any point today, please click on the bottom bar of Zoom, click on the Q&A button, and type and submit your questions there. I'll be keeping an eye on the Q&A throughout. So thank you so much for being here today. I know everyone is very busy, but I do think this is a really important topic, and I'm so glad that you agreed and made the time to be here. So today we're going to cover a couple things. First, I want to give you a brief introduction to the Brown School of Professional Studies because we aim to be your lifelong partner in helping you to develop the skills that you need to advance or excel in your careers. Then I want to tell you a little bit about why human-centered AI matters and what the research says. At Brown, one of the things that really distinguishes us from some other providers is that everything we do is based off of research. So I always like to start with what does the data actually say? I'll give you an overview of the human-centered AI program, steps to enroll, and then I'll hand things over to Dr. Prasad to give a sneak preview of what the role of agile leaders is in AI. And then we'll open it up to questions primarily about the program, not the topic, but you're welcome to give us questions about anything. So the Brown School of Professional Studies, our mission is to inspire and prepare graduate and professional learners to transform the way the world works for good. And that is a mission that I am constantly inspired by and motivated by because research shows that the way the world works now is not working for the majority of people. And that gap could continue to widen as we see technology adoption like AI enter the workforce in mass if we're not careful and intentional. But research also finds that managers have a disproportionate impact on the quality of life or at least the quality of the work life of their direct reports. And so that may sound like a lot of pressure, but actually I think it's really inspiring because it means that as you step up to the plate and build your skill set and your tools and your confidence, you have the ability to make an outsized positive impact on the people that you work with directly. And we're here to be the fuel to help you be that change for good. And our mission is to draw on our commitment to academic excellence, intellectual freedom, and diversity, equity, and inclusion to create and deliver programs that empower learners at all career stages to transform themselves, their workplaces, and the communities that they serve. And we do offer a number of different program types. Today, we're going to dive deeply into one, but it's always helpful to kind of locate yourself within the ecosystem so that you know what all of your options are. We offer over 33 professional and early career masters, including master's programs that are targeted to professional learners where you do not have to quit your job in order to join. We also offer custom programs for organizations. So if you leave today thinking, wow, like this program sounds incredible, but what I really need is help transforming my team, department, or organization, we can actually build and deliver a program just for you. And we offer over 30 non-credit programs, including this one. And those programs tend to be in leadership development, AI and technology, and mindfulness-based education. So now I want to tell you a little bit about why human-centered AI matters and why Baba and I are so passionate about this class and its contents. The numbers and the research make it abundantly clear that AI is here to stay, that it has the potential to make a hugely positive impact, and that it will help you as an individual be much, much more competitive in your career. So that's the good news. According to PwC, AI's market potential is estimated to be between 1 to 2 trillion by 2030. In addition, the Boston Consulting Group found that 58% of employees said that they saved at least 5 hours per week using generative AI tools. In addition, Deloitte found that 54% of employees believed that AI helped them to be more creative. And that's actually one of my favorite stats. I think it's really interesting and it's really different than what we've seen with other technologies. In the past, we've seen technologies that do increase efficiency or clarity, but it's rare to see a tech tool that increases creativity as well. And this is the one I think is most compelling. The World Economic Forum found that 71% of executives prefer hiring candidates with AI skills. So this paints both a pretty rosy picture and also a pretty urgent picture of why these skills really matter. But, and there is a but, 75% of workers distrust AI's data with good reason, and 68% are hesitant to adopt AI, according to Salesforce. In addition, only 22% of respondents feel that their organizations are prepared to source or train talent to adopt AI efficiently. So we have this huge gap between the potential of AI and understandable resistance to it and lack of comfort and competence in it. So there's this huge gap that we need to fill. And something that Baba and I kind of identified as a huge piece of this puzzle that we feel is missing elsewhere is we feel like there are some trainings that are doing a good job of teaching you how to use the tools and how to build it into your workflows. But there's very little that's looking at the people side of AI. Why is there so much distrust? Why is there so much hesitance to adopt? And how can we as leaders hear that hesitance, internalize it, and then help them to overcome it? So it's not just about overcoming resistance, it's also about understanding where it's coming from and making sure that we're creating adoption rules that empower both sides of the equations, both the human and the technology talent. And so that was the inspiration behind and the genesis of the human-centered AI program. We built this program with a couple of target audiences in mind. Number one, this is for managers and leaders who are identifying opportunities to incorporate AI into your organization or your team or your department in a way that empowers your human talent. We're hearing a lot of feedback that people are afraid that AI will replace their jobs. And while that may be true in certain industries or certain fields, the overall trend that we're anticipating is more that it's going to become an integral part of your job, not a replacement of. And so managers and leaders need to help their team members become confident and competent in working alongside AI almost as a coworker. Secondly, we built this for technology and risk professionals. So no coding is required. This is not something where you're in the data, but we thought this would be a helpful course for those of you who are on the front lines of developing the workflows and or ensuring that the incorporation is meeting legal standards, and especially those of you who need help communicating it to non-technical folks. And then lastly, this is for you. If you're here today and you're interested enough to be here and to listen to this info session, then this is a program for you. And so we developed this program to be very snack sized. So it gives you the content that you need right now in a way that fits into your busy lives. It's a 3-week program that will meet twice per week for an hour and a half per session. So every Tuesday and Thursday, you'll be in the virtual classroom with Baba, learning a key skill such as the strategic AI and human collaboration or building culture of co-intelligence at your organization. And each of the sessions takes place between 5 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we hoped that would make it relatively convenient for all people across the country and hopefully into Europe as well, though I know it's hard to find a time zone that works for everybody. And so in session one, you're going to get an introduction to AI. You'll define key AI concepts and terminology. You'll analyze the role of AI in modern business operations and specifically locate your personal role in leading it. And you'll assess the potential impact on various industries and society as a whole. In session two, you're going to look at strategic AI and human collaboration, and you'll think about how to enhance workforce adaptability, resilience, collaborative learning, critical thinking, and creativity. One of the key principles behind the way that Baba designed this course is that humans remain equally as valuable, maybe even more so, in this era of AI. And so when we think about how to strengthen the collaboration, we think about which tasks do we need the human workers to continue to be working on, and how do we strengthen and bolster those, not supplant those? And then what routine tasks can be automated and given to AI so that humans can focus on the tasks that are more collaborative, involve critical thinking and creativity. In session three, you'll learn how to build a culture of co-intelligence at your organization. And that is a term that was created by Ethan Mollick at UPenn at Wharton. And it means that you help both the humans and the technology learn from one another and become better together by fostering continuous learning between human employees and AI systems. Session four, you'll learn communication and change management skills. So how do you effectively communicate AI concepts to non-technical audiences? And how do you manage change related to AI implementation by addressing skepticism, hesitation, and pushback? Session five will focus on ethics, accountability, and legislation. And this is also a session that we feel very passionately about because we think that AI ethics is a field that is quickly emerging, but that there hasn't been that much developed on just yet. And it's very important. So in this one, you'll learn how to identify and analyze the ethical challenges in AI deployment, audit practices to ensure transparency and fairness, and provide an overview of AI governance and regulatory framework. So what is already out there and what do we anticipate could be coming? And then lastly, in session six, you'll learn strategic AI and human collaboration by extracting practical lessons from real world AI projects, both the ones that have gone very well and the ones that have gone very badly, to inform future AI deployment. And you'll have the opportunity to reflect on the course content and apply your learnings. One of the things that I think is always really magical about the cohort-based and live session learnings is that you will have the opportunity to learn from one another as well as learning from our faculty. And typically these types of programs attract people from all different industries, all different levels in their career, and all different types of jobs. And that is often some of the feedback we get as being some like the richest learnings is when you're learning from one another and sharing both the best practices and the stumbling blocks that you've experienced in your day-to-day lives on this topic as well. By the end of the program, there are a couple of outcomes that we commit to you that you will feel that you've achieved. You'll be able to assess AI's impact on people, communities, and the workforce. You'll be able to review organizational AI ethics and governance and align your organization, team, or department's practices with new regulations. You'll have the ability to enhance human capabilities with AI-driven technology by promoting a culture of human-AI collaboration. You'll be able to effectively communicate AI changes to ease adoption. So you'll be able to figure out how to identify where the fears are coming from, how to use the change management skills to help overcome them, and also how to speak to a non-technical audience about a technical platform. And lastly, you'll build cultures of adaptability, transparency, and ethical decision-making that will serve as the foundation to keep your organization future ready long into the future and your own career as well. At the end of the program, you'll have AI fluency without needing a technical background. No coding is required in any moment in this class. You'll have hands-on strategic frameworks and case studies to implement and manage AI in your organization. You'll have the opportunity to network with peers and with experts. and you will earn a certificate from Brown University. At the end of the program, we give out certificates in two different ways. Number one, you'll get a printable PDF that you can print and hang on your walls or your office. And then secondly, we also issue a digital badge, which I think they're very cool looking. And they come through Credly, which is owned by Pearson, so it's a very reputable source. And you can add it to your LinkedIn profile or anywhere else that you're active online. And it shows a very specific skills that you earned as a result of the certificate. And I think one of the best parts of our program is who it is taught by. And so you're going to hear from him in just one more moment. I'm going to introduce him, then I'm going to give you a little bit of enrollment information, and then I'm going to hand things over to him. But I do think this is one of the parts of the program that stands out, is that it's taught by the absolute perfect person, which is Dr. Baba Prasad. He's a professor of the practice of leadership at Brown University, an author, and an expert in the fields of strategic management, innovation, and leadership. He is known for his work on agile leadership and organizational agility, some of which you'll get to experience in just a moment. He is known for his work on and his notable works include the book Nimble, Make Yourself and Your Company Resilient in the Age of Constant Change, which was endorsed by CEOs like Brad Smith, Frank D'Souza, and Franz von Houten, and business thinkers like Adam Grant and Vijay Govindarajan. In Nimble, Baba integrates advances in theories of human intelligence and strategic leadership to arrive at a unique framework for executives and organizations to adapt and thrive in rapidly changing environments. He has a background in robotics and artificial intelligence and management, so the perfect combination, with degrees from the Indian Institute of Science, the University of Hyderabad, Kansas State University, and the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. Baba has taught at several prestigious business schools in the USA and India and has been a consultant for various global organizations. He's been a columnist for Mint, the Indian business newspaper. And you'll get to hear directly from him and get a sneak peek of the content in just one moment. But if you're as excited about this program as I am, and I really am, I'm very passionate about this program. I love it, and I've gotten to sit through it, and I learned so much from it. We hope that you'll choose to enroll. We do have limited seats available, and it is filled on a first come, first served basis. And the way that you save your spot is by completing the short enrollment form, which we will also email afterwards, and I'll put a link to it in the chat while Baba is teaching. And we do have an early bird discount that's available until March 14th. So I do encourage you, if you think this is a program you'd like to join, which I hope it is, to enroll early to save your spot and to secure the discount. So thank you very much. I'm now going to turn things over to Baba. He'll give you a sneak peek of what the content will be like in this classroom. And also, please do submit your questions as he's teaching by clicking on the bottom bar of Zoom, clicking on Q&A and typing and submitting your questions there, because as soon as he's done, we'll go into the Q&A. So welcome, Baba. Thank you for being here.
Okay. Hi, guys, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. This is a course that actually is very close to my heart because back when I was doing my PhD at Wharton in the 90s, I studied retail banking. And I was studying the impact of technology on retail banking. And of course, in manufacturing, everybody had found that it increases productivity tremendously. So my study focused on retail banking, which is really a service industry, and a lot of people. So what happens in a service industry? I found very strange results there, which is that if I invest more in technology, I'm not going to get much in returns. But if I invest more in the people, training the people, investing in technology people, then my result is going to be almost 10 times as much. And that stayed with me throughout, so that there's a huge human factor, even when we talk about technology. And this is a problem. Last week you saw that there's a lot of stocks of the AI companies and tech companies really fell because this is proceeding on the assumption, which is actually false, that you are going to get returns on investment just as if you were technology. Okay, so the real figure here is that AI is a very different kind of technology. It's not just a plug and play technology. It's actually about how it actually transforms work. Okay, so I'm going to share a little bit of a us, some insights that we will look at in this course. And so let me share my screen and just take you through a quick PowerPoint here. And let's see how this unfolds in a real life session. Okay, so um, I'm going to talk about agile leaders in an AI world. Okay. Now, the two things have become very apparent, and these two things will thread the entire course. On the one hand, it's a very fast changing world, and that's been the case ever since the advent of the internet in the mid 90s, right? And the world is changing dramatically. Technology infuses a lot of change. um, the entire business models change, products change, services change, and so all there's a tremendous turmoil, and so competition changes, and as a result the manager or the leader today has to be much much more nimble, which was the essence of my book. And so that agility portion will run through as a thread through the entire course, that we have to be agile throughout the organization, throughout a leadership capacity, right? The second thing is AI is a very different kind of technology. So we always thought, okay, technology means you come in and you replace the human with the technology. So it happened right from industrial revolution. We've been talking about that. You bring in a machine to do what the human was doing, and then the human is thrown out of work, and the machine does it much more efficiently. But AI is a very, very different kind of technology. It is, some senses, it is going to replace humans, but in many senses, it is not going to be. So, how do we actually discern the difference between these? And that's where the leadership really comes in. So, there is an urgent demand for agile leadership. And at the same time, there's a demand to recognize the difference between AI as a technology and previous technologies that we brought in over the centuries. So we'll learn these two things through the course. Now, when you look at this very quick slide here, is telling us that AI can actually help in decision making, resource allocation, customer interactions, strategic forecasting. So everything is actually being is possible to be doing with AI. But what happens is that the role of the leader changes. That these were things that these are things that you can't just relegate to AI, and that's what we will see in a bit. And the second thing is that by bringing in AI and in a world that's very uncertain, you have to be extremely agile. And so, how do you actually be agile is a question. And so, the first part, how do we be agile? How can we be agile as leaders? Goes back to my book, which I did about 15, 20 years of research of how people are being agile. And yeah, that's when I said that we thread um, theories of human intelligence to bring into management science. And so that was my book where I talked about agility not being in the singular, but in the plural, that you actually have different kinds of agility. And so these are the 5 different kinds of agilities. So you might need to change your analysis or the way you analyze things, the data sets that you're using, and depending on the context. So your problem context may change and suddenly you can't be doing what you were doing before. So that's analytical agility. Operational is very clear. Something breaks down in your workflow. Some supply chain breaks down somewhere and you're not getting the right inputs. So how do you change your operations to adapt to the new change? Okay, that's an operational agility. Inventive is often being challenged today, that you have not seen circumstances like these before. And how do you actually cope with these? What kinds of inventions do you come up with? What kinds of workarounds do you come up with? So this is where the inventive agility gets challenged. And then there is a singular component here, which is very different from previous things, where you think about agility being in communication also. So you feel that in situations, you actually are forced to engage different kinds of audiences and present the same situation to different audiences. So how do you actually cater to these audiences with different kinds of messages? Are you able to use different channels? Are you able to integrate, messages? These are questions that come up in communicative agility. Now, all these 4 agilities, the analytical, operational, inventive, and communicative, are reactive in the sense that you present a situation, you might mix these agilities and say, oh, I need a little bit of operational, and I also need to change my analysis. So I have those two mixed in, and then I solve this problem. But what is different and what we call strategic agility comes because once your solution is arrived, you've arrived at a solution, you step back and say, who is it going to affect? and in what ways? And then what are the long-term consequences of this, okay, of the solution, if I use the solution? So that's where the visionary. So what it does is the visionary intelligence or visionary agility comes in and it says, okay, this is a great solution, but what are the long-term impacts? Who is it going to impact and how is it going to impact? And that allows you to spread your lens, not just long term, but also wide. So you now start saying, okay, let's take a strategic approach to this. And that's why we call it the strategic agility. So these five agilities we will talk about in a session, and we'll learn how to apply them to situations. So this is actually allowing you to think about what AI will do and how can I actually think strategically with AI, not just tactically. Then one other thing, and this is just a snippet of what we will do in one of the sessions, is that the second argument that I'm going to make is that AI is actually going to change the way we lead. Okay? And how is it going to change? So there are three things that I'm seeing leaders having to do today. One is AI is going to put out a lot of stuff, but unfortunately, AI does not know the meaning or the implication of what it's putting out. Okay? And that's where humans come in. The human leadership comes in as interpreters. Oh, this has come to this conclusion. AI has come to this conclusion. What that means is. And so we will interpret it for the organization. Okay? And then we will also say that, oh, because of this, we're actually thinking that this may have this kind of impact. And that's where the strategic intent comes in. So we are actually being forced into roles of being interpreters, not just use the data. Previously, when some data set put out some numbers, a computer put out some numbers, we just use them in our spreadsheet, in our calculations. But now it's no longer the case. We actually have to interpret what that means. What are the implications of that? So then that's one part of the role of leadership. The second part, and this is actually a very funny part in some sense, because we think AI is going to give us the answer, but we don't know whether it is the right answer or the wrong answer, whether it's cooking up some stuff. Because all said and done, AI is still what we call based on pattern recognition, right? That it tries to see some patterns and then it works off a probabilistic mechanism. So it looks at the world and says, okay, with this pattern, this might be a probable answer. And what happens is quite often the probable answer is at a big mismatch with the data. Okay? So, for instance, you might say, where has my book been reviewed? And I'll tell you a bunch of places. And this is an actual thing that happened to us, but it'll tell you a bunch of places where it's been reviewed. Oh, in the London Review of Books, in the New York Times Review of Books, and so on and so forth. And then you go there and you find that your book has not been reviewed there. Of course, it's all fictional. So now what happens is when the answers come out from the AI machine, you have to be able to interrogate it. You have to be able to say, push back on the AI recommendations and then say, okay, are they raising ethical, cultural, or societal concerns? How do we, what kinds of issues are coming up with this stuff? Is it actually true? So visionary leadership will actually call out this engagement with the results of AI. So that's the second part, which is where we start challenging AI. And the third role is something I call stewards, where we are actually thinking about the long term. We did think about it a bit in interpretation, but as stewards, that's our primary concern. That are we in sync with human values? Are we in sync with, is this a societal good? Remember the mission that we had for Brown, that we are creating leaders who are thinking of the world for good, right? The good of the world. So this is where that comes in. That is the AI system in alignment with human values, with transparency, with accountability, and are we actually acting as custodians of public interest? And this is a strong belief I have that every business is there, of course, to make money, but more important than that, it is there to do the world good. Okay? And good not in the sense of the moral good in the sense of giving the world some benefits. Okay? Giving the world, pushing the world a little farther along, satisfaction, happiness, and so that's where we start to think about our role as stewards in this enterprise. Yeah. So then I just want to give you some very quick case studies for these. So for instance, in thinking about interpreters, so Stitch Fix is a case, and we will look at this in more detail in the course. But basically what Stitch Fix does is it allows people to place orders for dresses and for stylists. So what happens there is one way a company like that um, could operate is basically ask the human customers to input their preferences, and AI will take care of the rest. But that's not what happened with Stitch Fix. What happens is the AI makes a bunch of recommendations, but then a human customer service agent comes in and sits in between. And that person is actually a stylist, not just an agent. Um, the stylist sits and has conversations with you to understand why you're placing this order. Is it for a wedding reception? Is it for what kind of occasion is it? And then they make back and forth. They go back and forth and use the AI generated input as the ground base from which to work on. And as a result, now you're actually interpreting the data that AI has put out in the context of the customer, and that gives it much, much more value. And they found that to be tremendously beneficial. So this is a case of Stitch Fix acting as interpreter. Then acting as challengers. So Salesforce in 2018 started a new office of ethical, which basically looked at the ethics of what's coming out of AI. And they found that many customers were using Salesforce to do kind of face profiling and racial profiling and so on and so forth. And then they decided they're not going to sell to those clients who would use them for predictive policing and facial recognition. And predictive policing is basically saying when can crime occur, based on some probabilistic thing. And of course, you can see the scope for racial profiling in that. And so what happened is as this started raising some red flags, Salesforce said we're not going to sell it to these people, to people who will use it for predictive policing and facial recognition. And as a result, decided to walk away from a lot of business because it was not doing the right thing. It was not the right thing. So interrogating the machine is a key thing here. Technical capacity alone does not justify implementation. And the third case is Mozilla. Mozilla is, of course, it started out as Netscape long, long ago when the browser started, and then it became an independent organization. It does have a browser, but more importantly, its mission is that it is actually the foundation. It funds external audits of AI systems. It develops transparency tools, and it is positioned to be a custodian of public interest, not just a product optimization tool. So it's a non-profit technology steward which sits on the outside and helps organizations think about ethics. So stewards anticipate how AI affects not just individuals, but also democratic systems, society itself. And that's a big thing about AI that we need to have that hat on all the time with AI. Otherwise, it's a very slippery slope. Now, the distinction here is beyond the algorithm, we need to have leadership. Okay, and that's where this course kind of can get you started thinking in those kind of dimensions, and that's what will differentiate the true leader in an organization from the leaders of the past who are basically working off what we would call management science. What can AI do? AI can do automate repetitive tasks. It can automate that. It can accelerate data analysis. It can identify patterns and correlations. It can generate predictive output. So given a set of circumstances, what could happen? It could generate that, but it won't guarantee that that will happen. Okay, so it can generate a bunch of things, and that then it's your task to interpret which ones would be more likely. Okay? And especially at scale. So, for instance, this has all, I mean, a few of us paid attention to it, but AI has always been used in credit card companies to track transactions which go out of, sync. So, for instance, I suddenly make an airline ticket purchase, which is much more than what I spend normally. Something triggers that, and the fraud department is notified, and my transactions are stopped till I call and verify that that transaction is true. And that's where AI has always been used and it's been behind the scenes. So optimizing at scale is always being done. So what AI does is tells us what is probable. Okay, in all these circumstances. What leaders should do, though, is every time an action is proposed, ask if that action is just. Okay. Is it meeting the demands of social justice, human justice, whatever, so or just plain ethics? Is it in the organization how human relations work? So ask if that action is just. Second, determine if a proposed strategy is humane. Is it hurting somebody? Is it harming somebody? These are questions that should be asked by humans. And then you say, okay, the solutions are great, but does it fit our organizational purpose? What is our vision? And you'll hear a lot of this about, the purpose-driven organization, where you're thinking about a larger purpose for the organization beyond the business. Because as I said, there's this thing about organizations, in fact, our businesses existing to do good to humanity. And so how does the solution that's been proposed align with that? What kinds of moral judgment do we need to exercise here as leaders? As we said again in the intent, in the interpretation, especially, what is the intentionality of this solution? What is the meaning of the solution? What are the implications of the solution? These are things that you as leaders must do. So while AI says this is what is probable, what leaders must do is do what is right. Okay. And that's the message that will go out in this. So, agility is nuanced. So, just to some key takeaways here. Agility is nuanced, that there's not one kind of agility, but five agilities. And then these five agilities play in as you solve a solution, as you solve a problem. Um, Visionary agility is very critical. People are often neglected because they're acting in the speed of things. So analytical, operational, all these things are working and they're providing quick answers. But visionary agility comes in like the rudder for a boat and gives it direction. Okay. Um, then the three roles, interpretation, challenging, and stewardship. But there's one imperative that is basically do good to the world. And finally, what I'm arguing about in a recent paper that I'm writing, in an article that I'm writing, is basically that intelligence is being hyped up too much today. But really speaking, what makes the difference is wisdom. And that's what we're going to talk about here. And that wisdom comes not from machines, but from humans. Okay. So the biggest takeaway here is what I would like you to understand is that AI may know what is probable, but leadership must not always know and do what is right. Thank you. That's my, sneak preview for what we will do in the course. And of course, this is not the entire course, it's just a little bit of the course.
Thank you so much. I loved this so much. I think that one of the questions that comes up a lot in info sessions like this is how will this course keep up with the changes in technology? And I think that what you just demonstrated is such a good demonstration of how we tailor our courses to be both current and also evergreen simultaneously, because I think we teach how to create the foundation to use the technology, not just how to like where to click or what to type. And so in particular, I think something I'm going to think a lot about is these three roles of interpreter, challenger, and steward. And I think that that is such an incredibly helpful framework for thinking about our long-term relationship to AI. So thank you so much for providing that foundation. And so we're now going to open up to your questions. As a reminder, to submit your question, please click on the bottom bar of Zoom, click on Q&A, and type and submit your questions there. We do have a couple that have already come in, so I'll take the ones that we already have first, but it's still open if you have one that you have not yet submitted. The first question is, are the live sessions of the course recorded and available later if we're unable to make some of the times? And the answer is yes. And the and is that one of the hallmarks to Baba's teaching style is how interactive it is. And so the majority of the sessions will have breakout room activities or other opportunities to collaborate with one another and to learn from one another and to practice what you're learning. And those can't be duplicated very well via recording. In fact, breakout rooms can't be recorded at all. And other activities just can't be done in the same way. And so I encourage you to attend as many live as possible because you're going to get more value out of it. But we completely understand that life gets busy and also things might come up that you don't anticipate. And so if you do need to miss one or two, no problem. And that's what the recording is there for. And you will still get credit for attending the course as long as you view the recording, and be able to earn your certificate. Yes, I see a question. Can you please add the link to the course description? Yes, of course. I am happy to. And we will also send you a recording of this webinar as well. So you'll have that as well. But here you go. Here it, oops, sorry, that didn't go through just yet. Here we go. Here is the link to the program description. The next question that I see is, what will this program actually prepare me to do? And it's a great question. And it is the number one question I think most people are thinking about when they think about investing their time and their money into any type of training. And I think there are sort of two main things that we think about. The first is that it will introduce you to and gain you comfort with the technology. So especially if the technology itself feels relatively new and you're still kind of figuring out like, what is it? What are its capabilities and what are its limitations? I think it will help you gain that. But then number two, and I think this is more important, is it will help you develop your leader identity in relationship to the technology. So if we accept, and I think the research gives us a reason to believe this is true, if we accept that AI is here to stay, that will become an integral part of the workforce, that it's going to become as commonplace as email or Excel in our day-to-day lives, then being able to utilize the technology and being able to figure out how we want to interact with and lead through the technology is going to become a crucial leadership skill. And I do really believe it will become a career competitiveness consideration that when you're applying for a job, they'll increasingly ask, like technical or non-technical. I think you'll increasingly be asked by hiring managers what your comfort is with it, maybe what your personal philosophy is towards it. And also when it's time to advance in your career, I think that will be something that people start to take notice of, is your ability to utilize those tools for efficiency, for decision making, and for collaboration. Next question is, will my department be charged for the program? Do I need my manager's approval first? So I'm assuming, based off of the way the question has been asked, that this may be a Brown employee. And so I'm going to answer from that perspective. If you're not, please type in and let me know that that's not the case. But we do have the option for employers to pay so actually let me back up. Let me answer it in both cases. So if you work at Brown, the way that it will work is that we have an employee education program benefit that covers tuition for up to 3 courses per year. And so you'll actually want to go onto the HR benefits website first and fill out and submit your form to HR first. They will then give you a promo code and directions, and then you'll be able to sign up for the course after that. You do need your manager's permission to sign up for the employee education program, but it is a centrally managed benefit. So your manager should want you to take the course. If you're asking this question from a non-Brown employer, we still can accept payment from your employer, and we do. We often see this come up. And so first is that we have a template that you can use on the website that is it's a template email asking your manager to support you to take this program. And you can personalize it and submit it, but it kind of outlines the learning objectives and what you'll get from it. And then each employer is different. Typically, it goes one of two ways. Either you pay for it up front and get reimbursed, or we can send a PO number over to your employer and they can pay directly. So yeah, a couple different options for your employer paying. And I hope they will. I hope that they will choose to invest in your learning. These are great questions. Thank you. Okay, I don't have any more questions just yet, so I'm going to do a final call. If you have a question that you're considering asking, but you haven't yet, is click on the bottom bar of Zoom, click on Q&A, and type and submit your question. I have run a lot of these info sessions, so I can definitely tell you firsthand that a lot of times if you are not sure if your question applies to everybody, it really does. We always hear from people that they're so glad people have asked the question, so please do. Oh, yes, I will send a link to the email template. It should be on the website as well. I'll also double check that to make sure it is. Okay. If there are no other questions, then I just thank you so much. You will get a follow-up email from us. So if a question comes up for you later, don't hesitate to reach out. We want to make enrolling as easy as possible because I do really believe this is a skill that every leader is going to need. And so we want to make it as easy as possible for you to access. So thank you so much for being here today. And I hope we get to see you when the program starts on April 14th. And thank you, Baba, for being here as well. I always learn from you, and this is no exception. So thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye.